Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Knights Cast live stream. We're excited to have you all here. Sorry for the delay. We had a little bit of technical issues tonight, but we're here. We're ready to talk about episode 4 and answer the questions that you guys have submitted. We'll also address the questions that pop up in chat, and we'll also talk about our predictions for tonight's episode. So excited to discuss all of this with you. I am Vanessa. I am not our usual host. Sam could unfortunately not be with us tonight, but I am a contributing writer at Watchers on the Wall and a regular podcaster here on the Knights Cast. You can find me on Twitter at VKCultArtist, and I'm excited to announce our special guest for tonight, Quinn from Ideas of Ice and Fire. Thanks for joining us, Quinn.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, I'm Quinn from Ideas of Ice and Fire. I make videos on Song of Ice and Fire and other science fiction and fantasy series. And I'm also covering Game of Thrones right now while the season is airing.
Awesome. So good to have you with us. And we also have Lady Jeffrey from Watchers on the Wall.
Hey guys, I'm Lady Jeffrey. I'm a staff writer at Watchers on the Wall and podcaster here at the Knights Cast. You can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram at Lady_Jeffrey, spelled GEOFFERY, just so I can confuse the Starbucks baristas in my life.
That's always fun. Well, thanks guys for being here. Like I said, I'm really excited to talk about this week and our last episode as well. Did wanted to just quickly get your thoughts on last week's episode. We can kind of go down the line and just get a general idea of what you thought about it. It was pretty divisive. I know there was a lot of mixed fan reaction after it aired. So Quinn, I don't know if you want to just share with us kind of an overview of what you thought.
Well, there were definitely some parts of it that I like, but there's usually some parts of all the episodes that I like. If I'm just focusing on what I liked about the episode, I think it's really interesting how they're setting up this moral dilemma with Daenerys, because that's something that's been in the books and that's something that they've been setting up this entire time. In the process of trying to rid the world of tyrants, does she in turn become a tyrant? And I think it's really important in this episode, in the upcoming one, or whenever they're going to do it, that she has to make the decision to burn the people or not to burn the people. I think it would be a bad decision if they had someone come in and like kill Cersei, and then Daenerys doesn't have to make that decision. So I thought that was thought was like the highlight of the episode, because it was based on something they've been setting up for a really long time. And then also, I really kind of enjoyed part of Tyrion and Varys' conversation about destiny, fate, because that's the thing about Daenerys. Does her belief in her own destiny create that destiny? Or does she just have delusions of grandeur? Is that her arrogance speaking? Or is she really divine? Has she really been brought here to save the world? So I think that's just an interesting concept and an interesting idea. But mostly, I just thought the episode, if I'm being honest, was pretty mediocre. I thought there was some stuff in there that kind of didn't make a lot of sense. And I've never been shy about criticizing the show on my channel or on Twitter or anything. But yeah, I thought it was just generally mediocre for the most part.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of your comments on that. Lady Jeffrey, what did you think about it?
For me, it was really kind of like an episode of two halves, because I really enjoyed the kind of the Winterfell stuff. I enjoyed like all the character interactions. I know Twitter went kind of a bit crazy about Jon not saying goodbye to Ghost. No, I feel you. But I did really, all those kind of goodbyes, I was, tearing up quite a bit, Jon saying goodbye to Sam and all that. It really felt like there was kind of an end of an era, with, an Arya and the Hound kind of riding off and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was really brilliant. And then the tone just kind of shifted massively into kind of ridiculousness for me. I tweeted this at the time, and I still kind of can't get over how the direction in which it took, with Rhaegal flying over and then the score cutting out the second the arrow hit him, and I just started laughing. And I know that's terrible, but it was just so badly done. It was just like bang and the dragon's gone, and then everything just kind of, there was definitely some good ideas, but it just felt like a kind of a bit of a mishmash of stuff that they were going, wait, we've only got 2 episodes left, so we have to do this, and this, and it kind of didn't come together as well as I think it could have done.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that too. It did feel very tonally different in the beginning and in the end. I really did like the opening with the kind of somber funeral and John's speech. It was very moving and emotional, and I like that they gave the characters time to kind of process the losses that they experienced, and we got to kind of see them going through that grieving process, and then on the flip side of that, also celebrating the victory and celebrating that they survived and what they were able to win. So that was nice. And I thought they did a good job of really showing Daenerys's isolation through all of that. And it really, to me, it made you really sympathize with her position because she expected a much different reception. And I would think, especially after everything she lost and sacrificed to help win this war for the Dawn, or Long Night 2.0, what do you want to call it, but to not get the appreciation that she expected and the kind of respect that I think she really needed from them, just kind of gave you an insight into her mindset. I think it's really difficult for the show to let us see into a character's thoughts, but I think they portrayed it really well in this episode. So I did like that. And I think Emilia Clarke, I think she's gotten a lot of criticism for her acting. I think she did a really fantastic job. I am glad that they have given her some more range of material to work with this season. We get to see a lot more emotion from her in a much bigger range than what we've seen in the past. So that's one of the things I really did enjoy. But like you, Lady G, some of the logical fallacies that happened later on with there were things that just didn't work. I thought the end, as much as I hated to see Missandei executed by Cersei, I think it did set up the conflict that we're coming into tonight pretty well, because it wasn't, Daenerys has already lost so much, and then this was kind of like the final straw. I guess Missandei is really her best friend, like her closest out of all of her companions, and that final tie got severed for her, and then a Grey Worm, of course, too. So it'll be kind of fascinating to see how this affects him as we kind of go into this final conflict with Cersei. So I am nervous, I am anxious, I am scared to see what's going to happen tonight. But all of, criticism aside, I think Game of Thrones is always great at spectacle, and it sounds like this is going to be a really big, action-packed episode. And so, I'm anticipating that it's going to be exciting and scary and sad and emotional and all of those things to watch. So I am tentatively looking forward to it tonight. But if we don't have any comments about last week, I did want to just go through some questions and comments that we have received from our listeners. So Ryan C. on Twitter just said that he's reminded of George's discussion of Aragorn back in 2014, saying, okay, Aragorn won, now what? And he brought up the Tolkien template about wars against humanity against a Dark Lord. He didn't sound too interested to emulate that, and that's why he thinks the Night King wasn't the ultimate evil, it's humanity itself. So really, his question is like, now what? So yeah, I think they're kind of setting it up pretty well with this final human conflict with Cersei and Daenerys, and what are the lengths that you'll go to eradicate what you see as evil and to claim what you see as rightfully yours. And I think that's what we're going to be anticipating tonight. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. Dany's story has always been about, or for a really long time, it's been about her balancing her kind of gentle heart with kind of like her kind of inner ruthless tendencies. And now that Dany has lost her closest friend and confidant, Missandei, I don't really know what she's capable of, because they've been kind of building this for seasons. That it's like, as much as some people don't really like this turn where she's going, but they have been kind of setting it up for seasons that she could go down this path. So yeah, like I said earlier, it has to be her going in and doing it, or not deciding to do it, for it to be fulfilling for me. Um, and I'm curious to see how Jon Snow will react to what Daenerys does or doesn't do. Um, but yeah, I'm just looking for it. And back to the question though, what George R. Martin said about Aragorn and Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. Um, I always knew that there needed to be like a section at the end where we kind of wrap things up and figure out what's going on with the humans. Always knew that was very important. So I hope it's not just in the show that it's just this big battle, this conflict, and then they don't really explain what happened next when things got quieter. Because I think that was more what George R. Martin was referring to. He's saying that, okay, so you defeat the bad guys, but then what happens to the people of Westeros and the rest of the kingdoms and everyone else after all of the threats are dealt with? I hope that wasn't too rambling.
Oh no, not at all. Lady G, what do you think?
I think it's an interesting point about we hear this kind of this George R. Martin saying about Aragorn's tax policy, which is a beautiful turn of phrase. I think it's an interesting way to put it, because for me, I mean, I've always been a huge fan of Tolkien, but the way in which Lord of the Rings is written is not written as a fiction in as much as it was written for there to be a universe for his kind of languages and things to work. So his characters aren't hugely kind of characterful. They're mostly just kind of ciphers, just kind of doing their thing, really. And that is very much like a kind of humanity versus the ultimate evil. What I think is really interesting about the way in which the books have tackled this, and not necessarily the show, is that I always saw it as being humanity versus winter, really, and winter was kind of this ultimate evil, and the idea was that they would have to deal with the human threats first, and once those were out of the way, that you would be looking at how the characters are dealing with like the what's next, as it were, but against this backdrop of the thing which they can't really control or conquer, which is winter. And that's the way I feel like the books are going to go. With the show, they've almost kind of done it the other way around. Like they've killed the Night's King. That's kind of, I mean, people feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it's not very wintry anymore. Like they've gone to King's Landing and there's no snow. So I don't know. And now it feels like they're kind of dealing with this human threat, and it's almost kind of tacked on the end. Like we've dealt with the big thing and now we're dealing with the little thing. So it's saying I feel like they're two kind of different things, but either way, I'm certainly intrigued as to, are they going to deal with the quote unquote human threat this episode and have the final episode is going to be, playing who gets the throne, or is it going to be right up until the last minute? Like we still don't know. And then it's, I don't know, fade to black. Are we going to get a kind of Harry Potter style 12 years in the future, everyone's married and has a baby? I mean, I would hate that. But, who knows? Maybe this is what we're going to get. Terrible aging prosthetics on like Sansa and Arya. They've settled down. They're raising hot pie together.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's an interesting question. And, with the lengths of these next couple of episodes, I feel like they can't really resolve everything this week. I feel like it's going to have to spill into the next episode, because it's close to an hour and a half next week, and an hour and a half of kind of the aftermath and epilogue seems like a lot. So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see how they're going to finish it up tonight. But I'm going to go ahead and move on, because I know we have quite a few questions to get to, and we've got more questions popping up in the chat. So I want to make sure we get to everyone. So this next one is from at Jake Michael KU on Twitter, and he's got kind of a bullet point list here. So I'm going to go through each one and just get your answers for them as we go. So would Dany execute a pregnant Cersei? Would Jon? Would Jaime? I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, Dany probably would. Jon, I don't know. And Jaime I really don't know. I don't know if he's gone back to protect her because he's got this unhealthy addiction to that relationship, or if he's gone back to kill her. So I'm gonna have a hard time with that one. What do you guys think?
Well, I guess
I don't think Jon would do it, because I don't think Jon has got the balls. Like, oh, she's pregnant, I better leave her. I think Dany definitely has it in her. I think because she'd see it as a threat. I'm still in the mindset that Jaime is going to be the one to ultimately kill Cersei. So I don't think. I think her being pregnant or not pregnant is kind of a moot point because I think that's just kind of what's coming for her anyway.
Okay, so I agree. Dany definitely she'd do it. She'd be like, yeah, you're dying. Jon, I don't think he would. I think he'd be like, oh no, she's pregnant. I can't kill a pregnant woman. Yada yada yada. And then Jaime, that's the one that I'm confused about. That's the one I don't know because I don't know if he's going back to protect Cersei or to kill her. But then he would know that he knows that she's pregnant, right? He knows.
Yeah,
right?
he does.
He does. So I don't know if he'd be willing to kill Cersei and their unborn child. I don't know if that necessarily makes sense, but it seems like they're going to do that anyway. So I don't know if it. I don't know.
Yeah, and the only way
I don't know if
the only way I could see it is if she were going to set off wildfire, kind of like Aerys, and he had to do it to save the city, just like he did before. Then maybe, but I think he would have a hard time with that. So
same.
Yeah, it's gonna be. This is gonna be such a gut wrenching episode, guys. I don't know. Anyway, next question: are Arya and the Hound going to team up against Gregor? I say Arya's got her own agenda, and I feel like they're going to split up once they get to King's Landing. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, if we're gonna have like crazy fan service, and I mean that would be cool to see Arya team up with Gregor and fight Sandor. Team up with Sandor and fight Gregor. But yeah, I think she's off to do her own thing. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe kill Cersei. Maybe I don't know what it is. But yeah, she's got her own thing.
I agree, but then also, I mean, I forget if this is true or not, but isn't Gregor? He was on Arya's list, wasn't he, of people to kill?
He was, yeah.
So I don't know. In my head, I have this vision of Sandor and Gregor fighting, and then Sandor just kind of grabbing Arya and kind of fastball specialing her, like chucking her over, and she's just gonna sort of 2 daggers straight in the eye. I think as cute as that would kind of be, because I love the Sandor Arya team up. I think that Arya has definitely got her own agenda, and I was very struck by her last episode when they're riding off and he's like, I'm not coming back, and she's like, no, neither am I. I'm like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wonder if now Arya's kind of killed the Night's King, if not in the same sense as Bran, but maybe she's kind of got almost this kind of bigger perspective that it's bigger than her kill list. You know, she doesn't recite that list when she goes to sleep. She did kind of reconcile with Beric and Tormund and Thoros and all these kind of people. So I wonder if her plan is kind of a bit more, I don't know, a bit grander than just going to King's Landing and shafting the mountain. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I suppose we'll find out in a few hours. So the next question is, how many kills will Grey Worm get? And a lot, I assume. I think it's going to be probably uncountable. So I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, Grey Worm seems really mad. I think he's going to be rampaging in this episode.
Oh, for sure.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
Same. I'm hoping it's, a lot of the Golden Company. Just take them. Unless they flip. Who knows? Maybe they'll switch sides. That would be really cool if they did. But what about you, Lady G?
I mean, he's like a trained soldier. I mean, he's already gotten quite a few. I mean, like, of all the characters, he's probably got in the most kind of like unnamed character kills, you know. So
yeah, not to mention all those whites. Like,
yeah, exactly. So I've seen people saying like, is he going to be the one to kill Cersei for killing Missandei, which I don't think is going to happen.
No,
but
sure,
give him a nice. I would like him to kill. I don't know, maybe like Harry Strickland, somebody that's kind of like a named character that's enough of a thing that you're like, oh, it's cool. Grey Worm's like got a little bit of a revenge.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to say Qyburn, but I really, really, really love Qyburn, and I don't want him to die.
He's going to die.
Yeah. Actually, I would love Grey Worm to kill Euron, since he's the one that captured Missandei.
Oh yeah, no, I forgot about Euron then. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah, he can get him. That'd be great.
I want the dragon to eat Euron, honestly.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah, that too.
Maybe Grey Worm will bring him to Drogon, and I don't know. This next one is pretty funny. How dumb will Team Targaryen's strategy be? I mean, it hasn't been great so far. Sorry, most clever man in Westeros, Tyrion. I'm not impressed.
Yeah, I was gonna say
with-
Danny just needs to stop listening to Tyrion.
Yeah, agreed. So no, this is what I want to see. As I want to see. Okay, I want to, since apparently dragon scales aren't as tough in the show as they are supposed to be in the books. I want to see like some kind of like armor for Drogon, or at least for Daenerys. Like, why isn't she wearing armor? I'm shocked by that. I want to see her burn the fleet to the ground and take out all those scorpions. And I want to see her hit the walls, like all the scorpions kind of lined up outside of King's Landing, and open the gates, like burn the gates down so that her soldiers can get in. That would be what I think the best thing to do is, but who knows what they're planning.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that?
I was saying last week that Daenerys needs dragon armor because first of all, that would just be really cool. And then second of all, you've lost 2 dragons now. You need to prepare like a little bit and get it together. So yeah, I want her to go in there with the dragon armor. It looks so cool, and I don't want to see her kill innocent people. If I'm being honest, I don't want to see that.
I don't either.
I want her to find it in her not to do that and figure out a way to do this without doing that. But I do want to see her set some crap on fire, though. I want to see her burn up some buildings and do that. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And as far as the innocence, I mean, she took 3 cities without killing innocent people. So I think, what boggles my mind is why didn't they just say, "Hey, Arya, since you're a faceless assassin, can you go down and take Cersei out, please?"
Yeah.
Which it seems like she's already planning to do that. So, she wants the job. There you go. Problem solved. I don't know. I don't understand, but I guess that wouldn't be as exciting. Do you have thoughts on that, Lady G?
Well, I've seen a lot of people say about why didn't they just ask Bran what Cersei was up to?
Yeah.
But again, I feel like that's just bad plotting, or maybe because they'll be like, oh, that wouldn't be exciting. Maybe just no one's twigged. Maybe they've gone like, oh yeah, we just forgot we have someone who could do that.
They forgot.
Bran has just been so useless this entire time. You've got magical powers, dude. Use them.
I'm hoping that turns around.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully.
He's got to do something important, I think, by the end. So we'll see. And then, okay, so next is Varys killed by Dany or Tyrion or other? I think Dany, if she finds out that he's plotting against her. That's it for me. I mean, she already foreshadowed that back in, the beginning of season 7, where she told him that she would, roast him alive, or however she said it. So, yeah, I think he's toast, literally toast this episode. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I hope she has him executed. I cannot believe he turned on her so quickly, and it's so ridiculous. He's literally like, Daenerys is too strong. She will manipulate Jon because he's weak. Therefore, he should be king. And I'm just like, what? How does that make any sense? And he's like, because he's a man. I'm like, what?
But yeah. Who said anything about him back in season 5? And now it's like, okay, well, now it has to be a guy. Sorry. Okay.
I wonder if I have the feeling that maybe Tyrion will do it, because I don't buy this kind of theory that Tyrion isn't 100% Team Dany. I feel like Tyrion is 100% Team Dany, and I feel like now Varys is kind of weaving his weirdness web. I wonder if Tyrion's going to be like, you know what, just turn around, and we know that Varys has got to die. So and it's not going to be he takes a tumble and cracks his head open, or no one realized he had a peanut allergy or something like that. Like, so I feel like it could be Dany, but I there's been so many Varys Tyrion scenes that I wonder if with them kind of doing this discussion of like, why isn't Dany a good queen? Oh, well, because she doesn't have a penis. Neither do I. But like, I just so maybe I feel like Tyrion's just going to snap and be like, sod it.
I would actually really like to see that. That would be great. I miss Dark Tyrion, from like season 4. So yeah, I'm all for it. Tyrion, do it. So do you think Drogon dies, or does Yara show up, and does Bran do anything?
Okay, Drogon dying, I really, really hope not. Yara showing up, I feel like that could be cool, but I don't know if they're gonna do that. I don't know if they have the budget or just like, or if they even care about the whole Iron. It seemed like they just sent her off and they were just like goodbye Yara forever. So I don't know if she's coming back. And then what was the other thing?
Does Bran do anything?
This episode, I don't probably not. They might be saving that for the final.
I feel like we won't. I don't know that we'll see Team Winterfell at all, but I could be wrong. Yara, I would love to see her fleet show up and help take down Euron's fleet, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. And then Drogon, I want him to destroy the Iron Throne, and I don't know if we will see that yet. So I'm hoping he lives and that happens next episode. So I don't know. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed for Drogon.
Oh, yeah, I kind of feel the same. I would love to see Drogon destroy the throne. I think that Yara is going to show up again. Not just because I want her to, because I'm a huge Yara fan. There are things things that the actress has dropped. I'm not talking about that weird post with her baby, but I feel like she hasn't. I feel like we haven't seen the last of her. Does Bran do anything? Yes, he sits around and looks cool and is shady as to anyone who questions him. Yeah, that's what he does now.
Nice. So I just have, there's a few just comments I'll kind of quickly go through. We don't really need to discuss them in depth, but some of them are kind of funny. We have another one from at Jake Michael KU. It says, as long as Euron dies, I don't even care. Hot Pie can have the throne for all I care now. Probably Dany finds out she's pregnant. John reluctantly marries her, and everyone lives uncomfortably and compromise ever after. And Arya dies or is reclaimed by the Faceless Men. Well, I don't like that idea. Let's not have that happen.
No.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm on board with Euron. Hot Pie, yeah, sure. King Hot Pie. I'm all for it. He'll big wolf bread for everyone. I don't know about the Daenerys pregnant thing. That bothers me because I feel like they really set it up last season. There were so many comments about her, I can't have kids, and then John makes the comment about are you sure, like, you really going to take this witch's word that you can't? And I mean, they foreshadowed it, and then it's really amounted to nothing, and we're in the penultimate episode. So I kind of feel like it's not gonna be a thing now, but it's confusing as to why there was all that discussion of it last season.
Yeah. I honestly don't want Daenerys and Jon to be together. I would much rather Daenerys just be like, you know what, you Westerosi like jerks, you screw you guys. And then like go over to the East and just like reform that entire place and just do great things in the East. Because I feel like she's way more needed over there. And then those people have way more culture that's worth preserving anyway. And she could do a lot of things as like a queen who has an interest in like getting rid of slavery and doing all these wonderful things, rather than being over here with these jerks in Westeros who are all just like full of themselves and just like, screw those people. Screw Jon, you don't need this. Like, yeah, go get some people that respects you and call you Misa and like literally worship the ground that you like stand on.
I mean, the way she's been treated since she got there, I'm kind of on board with that at this point. So I don't know. What do you think, Lady G?
The Dany pregnancy thing, I think, we are going to have to accept that there are a lot of things that the show has brought up in the past, which isn't going to get resolved by the season finale because just because of the nature of them basically, trying to adapt so much of the books and then kind of basically running out of stuff to adapt and it all just kind of coming to a huge point. So I think for me, the interesting thing would be if Dany can't have children, if she's not pregnant with Jon's child, then surely that leaves open the argument of who's going to have the Iron Throne after she's gone. So unless she names an heir, we're basically back to square one, which I think would be a kind of interesting, ironic ending to the show of going like, okay, well, Dany finally got what she wanted. She's got the throne. that's literally that's it, you know, nothing else can continue unless John marries somebody else and she names them an heir because she loves John so much. I don't know, I'm just speculating. I still think it would be lovely if Dany and Yara got together. so much better for her than John. Let's not lie.
For sure.
But like,
that's a popular ship. I've also seen a lot of like Dany Sansa shipping going on, which they don't seem to like each other much, so I don't see that. But you know, I wanted them to be friends. Like, I guess that's never going to happen. But
I knew they weren't going to be friends.
Oh well.
But I like Dany and Yara though. That's cool. They would do wonderful things together. Yeah.
Agreed.
They'd be ruthless.
So I'm just going to read through a couple more comments. The crazy predictions: Qyburn resurrects Rhaegal, and the Mountain rides it into battle to burn the other half of Sandor's face off. Real predictions: I have no idea. Robin Aaron shows up to save the day. So I don't know that that's going to happen. But I mean, a resurrected Rhaegal would be kind of cool. I think it'd be a little difficult to fish him up out of the ocean. But you know, you never know. If the Whites can get Janes and pull Viserion up out of a lake, I guess it's possible. And then we have another one. Episode ends with Bran sitting in the Godswood watching Via Ravens. When he snaps out of warg mode, his eyes turn blue. He gets out of his chair and pulls a double-bladed ice saber. Epic music plays. Well, that would be an interesting way to go. And then we've got chances. Varys reenlists the little birds to spread the news of Jon's, yes, I'm assuming he's fully changed allegiances, arrival to the common folk, and Cersei using them as a human shield that start the uprising inside the city. Well, she's already got a human shield when we've already seen her bringing in the small folk into the Red Keep. So I don't think that's going to end well for them. I don't know if Varys is like going to spread the word. I personally see him more trying to talk to Jon directly and maybe influence him that way. Don't know if that's going to go too well. But yeah, I don't know if they're going to have that kind of word spread within the city. Because I don't think the common folk would really care at this point. They're just trying to survive and not get burned alive by this battle that's about to happen. So I don't know that would be of any benefit to Varys to do that.
I don't know what Varys is capable of in the show, because I know in the book he's willing to kill for the realm. He's willing to do whatever it takes. But this show character, I'm not sure how far he's willing to go. Is it just talk and manipulation, or is he willing to get his hands dirty? I don't know.
It's a tough one. He's been I think he's been kind of whitewashed in the show as to be this more. I'm for the realm. I'm for the common good. Despite, he's done some questionable things, so I think it's a little hypocritical of him to be throwing Daenerys under the bus for things she's done. But
he shipped the guy across the Narrow Sea in a box and then tortured him.
True. But we haven't gotten into the darker implications of him cutting the tongues out of children to be as little birds in the show. So I guess that's nice for him. I don't know. I have no idea what he's going to do, to be honest. What do you think, Lady G?
I agree with you saying about him kind of spreading the word might be a bit pointless, in that I don't think the small folk really know what's going on, and I don't think they really care. I think as long as they're not getting killed and they've got enough bread and wine and whatever, they're probably going to be happy. I imagine that a lot of them aren't happy with Cersei, but from their point of view, one person on the Iron Throne is as good as another person. I don't think if I was in their position and a small child came up to me and was like, hey, instead of that royal person, this royal person, this one's got a dragon, but this one's got quite nice hair, he's quite broody, so vote. You can't vote for them, but support him. But I don't really know what he would get out of that, because I don't think that, say that Dany kills Cersei and sits on the Iron Throne, I don't think the small folk are going to suddenly be like, we're going to rise up and take over because Varys told us to. I just,
Can I say something just to add? Can I say something just to add to that? Yeah, I totally agree. And I remember, this is from the books, but in A Feast for Crows, when Brienne is walking with, I cannot think of his name right now, he's saying to her, oh, I wish the other guy was king, the Dragon King. That's back when times were good. Because the common people, I mean, they haven't exactly been living the best lives under Robert, or definitely not Cersei. So why would they rise up against Daenerys? Why would they care? I mean, the last time when things were really good for them were when the Targaryens were in power. So why would they be against Daenerys, the Dragon Queen?
Well, I think to kind of answer that question, we see Cersei. It was in season 7 where she's talking to kind of a gathering of lords in the throne room, and basically like throwing out this xenophobic propaganda of all the savages that Daenerys is bringing and all the terrible atrocities that they're going to commit when they come. And so that's how she kind of gets the lords on her side. And I mean, I would be very surprised if she wasn't giving that same message out to the common people inside of King's Landing. So I feel like they've probably been poisoned against her. Not that Cersei's necessarily any better. She blew up a sept full of people. A lot of them were innocents. There was collateral damage, for people just kind of walking down the street and getting hit by this ginormous bell that fell on them. But I can't believe that people haven't risen up against her unless they portrayed it as, oh, it was just a terrible accident kind of thing. But yeah, I feel like she's smart. She's probably already poisoned their minds against Daenerys and made sure that they would not be supportive of her. And especially, if she comes in there with like guns blazing, so to speak, dragon fire, like everywhere, they're gonna be like, okay, yeah, Cersei was right. She's a terrible person. So, yeah, she's already poisoned his waters, I think.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
But you literally did blow up their cathedral, right?
Right. But that's fine. She's keeping him fed, I assume. So, whatever. So I'm going to go through the chat here and just, so we have a question about Dany getting pregnant. We already kind of we went through that. I feel like it's kind of late to bring that up. I don't know. I think that ship has kind of sailed if they were going to go that direction. Curious on your opinion if the Dany situation could be a misdirect. There's plenty of foreshadowing she could go nuclear, but Dany often takes the third option when cornered. I don't know. I'm kind of in the dark here. I usually feel like I have a good handle on what's going to happen. And I think they've really set it up that they could go either way at this point. I think they could have her just kind of rampaging through the city. Or, I think they could have her kind of pull back and, take a more measured approach. I really have no idea how they're going to play this out.
I think you're right. I think it's difficult because, and this is a criticism of the show, not a criticism of the books or of Emilia Clarke, because I think she's wonderful. But I think, generally speaking, there is a level of inconsistency in the way that the show has written Dany's character. And I think because we have now such a short frame of time in order to do stuff, we know that D&D have got this thing in their head of, oh, well, George told us the ending, so we're going to get there on our own way. And I wonder if the quickest and easiest way for them to get to whatever his ending is for Dany to go nuclear, because they know that that will make a really entertaining spectacle. It will get people talking. We've got, less than 3 hours of this left. They're going to be like, well, let's just do this because it's huge and it gets a lot of stuff out of the way. It enables us to then tackle this kind of like this end issue. So I would prefer her, I think, to not do that, because I feel like that's this whole kind of like Dany as the Mad Queen thing is not something that kind of sits particularly easily with me. But I can see where they're driving the character. So yeah, I think it could go either way.
Yeah, I just think about that scene from season 2 when she's in the House of the Undying, and then you see the throne room, and there's the big hole in the ceiling, and then there's either ash or snow falling through, and then she goes up to the throne, but then she kind of gets close to it, but then doesn't touch it. So I wonder, are they going to really go through with this and have her kill these people that may become the Queen of the Ashes, and then just completely flip the switch and have her be like the final villain? I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily like that. And the reason is, George R. Martin hasn't put out those second 2 books, but I just have such a view of Daenerys as a character based on the books that I just don't see that actually happening. So I don't know. But in the show, I can't deny that they've kind of set it up. They kind of have. I don't know if they've set up her killing innocent people though. I don't know. Maybe let me take that back a little bit. They've set it up that she's kind of willing to like really get her hands dirty to like if she feels like that it's necessary. But I don't know if they've set it up where she'll literally massacre hundreds or thousands of common people. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, and she kind of made the point that she was willing to do whatever it takes after Miss Sandy was captured. But you could say she was, she was emotional and upset and angry at the time. And now that, it looks like we're going to have a little bit of kind of reflection time. And because we see, there's a shot of her at Dragonstone looking kind of defeated and sad. So, does she reflect on it, and does she kind of change her mind and think, let's not go in guns blazing and kill everyone, but I still want to, rip Cersei out of there. Like I said, I think they could really go either way. And to kind of play off on this point, Barbie Lopez in the chat says, I think Dany will try to bring fire only to the Lannistermen, but Cersei will make Dany look bad. Looks like Cersei has a trap. There are barrels at the top of the castle. I bet it has wildfire. And that's something that I thought too. I thought she was kind of stockpiling the wildfire as kind of a deterrent to Daenerys, or well, maybe not a deterrent, but like if Daenerys does fire upon the Red Keep, then she's going to take a lot of people out. And, even if she does win, it really kind of sours the beginning of her reign. Or, makes people rise up against her. And that's kind of the option that I would prefer rather than Daenerys, like purposely going in and killing a bunch of innocents. I could see it more as like accidentally doing it because of something that Cersei has set up. Because, Cersei's already been set up as this villainous character. We already know that she's willing to do whatever it takes to maintain power or to get revenge on her enemies. So I think that would be very in character for her to set this trap for Daenerys. And I would much prefer that than Daenerys just go in and indiscriminately kill a bunch of innocent people.
Yeah.
Guys, have any other comments?
Oh yeah, I just pretty much agree. I would rather it be Cersei making Daenerys look worse than she actually is. Yeah, for sure. And I definitely think Cersei's going to use wildfire. I mean, they have to bring that out. That's her thing at this point, right?
Yeah, and I think back to what was it? I can't remember which season it was, but when Bran had the visions of like the Mad King and burn them all and the wildfire exploding, but there was also like the dragon flying over King's Landing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when they show the wildfire explosion, it's before the Sept explodes in season 6. So yeah, I guess it was season 6 when they had all those visions. So it makes you think that that's what it's foreshadowing. But I wonder, if it's tied into Mad King Aerys saying burn them all, and we also have the dragon flying over, is it tying into that? So, are we going to see a dragon setting off wildfire and, much worse destruction of the city? So yeah, I'm kind of wondering if that's what's going to happen.
That's one thing that I'm wondering about too, in like the canon of the show, because we know in the book that there's caches of wildfire hidden throughout the city. But is that also true in the show? Because if Dany comes in there with this huge dragon and starts setting buildings on fire indiscriminately, that could set off a chain reaction that could light this entire city up. And then it's like, whoops.
So Jaime in the show tells Brienne that there is wildfire. He says it's under the Sept, under Flea Bottom, under taverns and houses, and even under the Red Keep. So he sets up that it's kind of everywhere, or at least as of Aerys' time. Whether or not it was cleaned up after that, I don't think we know. Tyrion apparently knows about the wildfire plot because he tells Daenerys about it in season 6 as well when they're attacking Meereen. And so my question is, if he knows, why hasn't he mentioned that to her? Why hasn't he said, hey, you need to be careful if you go in there with the dragon because you might set off all this wildfire?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if he's going to bring that up this episode. And given his track record of advising her, I kind of feel like he's not going to mention it. So I don't know. Anyway. We have another question. Did Sansa notify Cersei about Dany's movements and the fact the army was tired and depleted? I have seen a lot of people mention this, and as much as I don't think Sansa trusts or likes Daenerys, I cannot see her helping Cersei, especially knowing Jon is going with Daenerys's soldiers to attack the city. Like if she would do that, she was putting Jon at risk.
Yeah.
And I can't see that happening. But I don't know. Do you guys
Yeah.
have different opinion on that?
Well, I was just gonna say hell no. Like, I mean, I think Sansa might admire Cersei a little bit, but she would never help her in any way.
I honestly think that is like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I know, you know, people hate on Sansa. I'm a huge Sansa fan, but I think even if you're not a fan of Sansa, the idea that she would tell Cersei, someone who I think she probably does have this kind of admiration for in a sense, but somebody who basically made her life hell, you know, someone who's part of the family that was responsible for killing, you know, so many people that Sansa loved. The idea that she would go and tell Cersei that Dany's army was tired because Dany annoys her a little bit. Like, yeah, there is absolutely no way that she would put I mean, aside from Jon as well, I think obviously she wouldn't want to put Jon in danger, but Sansa is a compassionate person. She doesn't have her eye on the Iron Throne. She doesn't, you know, she's not going to put all those people in danger. Like, she knows what might have happened. She's not going to be like, oh, you know, well, I don't like Dany, but I'm just going I don't care who dies, you know. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
No.
And Cersei is the one that killed Lady. Like, I mean, come on. No, she'd never help her.
Yeah, I mean, I think as much as she may dislike Daenerys, I think she has to hate Cersei more. I mean, Cersei has done much more to personally ruin her family than Daenerys ever has. And I mean, Daenerys did help them, and I do think Sansa recognizes that. I think her biggest beef is just with the Northern Independence, which it's a whole other conversation. I still don't understand why Daenerys wasn't willing to offer that when she was willing to offer it to Yara and the Iron Islands for their help. We won't get into that right now. So yeah, I think I can't, unless they totally assassinate Sansa's character on the show. I cannot see her helping Cersei. I think Lisa, excuse me, says I think multiple people will come at Cersei, some will die, one will succeed. I would not be surprised, and there's plenty of people that want her dead. So it's tough for me because, like, as much as I hate Cersei, I love Lena Headey. She's done a fantastic job, and it's also Mother's Day, and we basically have like two main characters at this point who are mother figures, and that's like Cersei and Daenerys. And so seeing either or both of them die on Mother's Day just really kind of hurts my heart a little bit. So I don't know. It's regardless, I think it's gonna be a tough episode to watch. And then Mark says, "Quick derail the conversation and talk about Dune." Quinn, I know you're happy to do that.
Yeah.
And there's actually a question later that will ties into that. So we'll table that for a second and we'll get to that in a little bit. And she also says looking forward to the music. So yeah, definitely. I think no matter any other criticisms you may have, the music is always fantastic. Is anyone else rooting for Cersei to win? Are you really?
Well, okay, not actually. But I just have this thing. I love Lena Headey's portrayal of Cersei so much. I have this metallic painting of Cersei in my office. I absolutely love that character. And in my head canon, and like the weird like alternate version of Game of Thrones, it's like Cersei ruling over everyone's dead body. I mean, realistically, for what makes narrative sense, no, I don't actually want her to win. But yeah, I do love Cersei.
I adore Cersei. Lena Headey is just amazing. I adore her, but I would not be satisfied. I think the kind of small mean part of me, would be kind of like ha 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 ha. But I think most of me is not that part of me. So I don't want to see Cersei survive. And just for the record, it's not Mother's Day here in the UK. It's only Mother's Day in the US, and that means they can kill Cersei as much as they want in my book, and it's totally fine.
Oh,
Yeah.
she
And
was
then
the best woman that ever sat the Iron Throne.
she's it's a great character. I mean, regardless of how you feel about her. I mean, I don't I can't imagine there are too many people that actually want her to win, but I surprisingly, I think I'm going to feel sad about her dying. And I don't know that I would feel that way about book Cersei, as I think she's just
No.
way crazier and has done much, much, much more awful things than show Cersei. But yeah, I think I'm gonna be sad about it. And then Jay says, "I hope we don't have a Sopranos type ending." Yeah, I don't think they're gonna leave us hanging that much, at least after next week. Let's see. LOL, just Danny, John, and Tyrion looking at throne faded black. No, I don't. I don't see that happening. What do you think about not seeing Dario, Edmure, or Sweet Robin in the last 2 episodes? Are they in any way still relevant to the end game? Dario, I don't see coming back. I mean, she left him in Marine to keep the peace, and I'm assuming that's where he's going to stay. Edmure, I really wish they would have just give us a sentence or 2 letting us know what happened to him. I mean, I thought when Arya went to the twins and killed off most of House Frey, or at least the male members of House Frey, there would be at least a sentence of oh yeah, I let Edmure out of the dungeon and he's back in Riverrun. But then Bronn mentioned that he was promised Riverrun by Cersei, so apparently it's still in play as a castle that's not occupied. So I have no idea what happened to poor Edmure, or Rosalind for that matter, or their child. And at this point, I don't see us getting any kind of conclusion about that story, which is a little sad. Sweet Robin, I'm assuming, has been in the Vale all this time and safe, and maybe we'll see him in some kind of epilogue, but I definitely don't see him in this episode. What do you guys think?
I don't really give tips about Dario. He was a creep. Danny deserved better. Sweet Robin, and I mean, he was entertaining with the boobs and all that, but yeah, again, I think it would be nice to see him. I think, I don't know, maybe with some Knights of the Vale if they're still hanging around. I know exactly what Edmure is up to. He's clearly the new Prince of Dawn that was mentioned last episode, and that's what he's been up. I love Edmure so much. Tobias Menzies is such a wonderful actor, and I know he's not a huge character in the books, but I think it's a real shame that we didn't get to see more of him in the show, because I thought he was done really wonderfully. And I agree, there's been instances where it would have been easy for them to slip a mention of Edmure in, like you were saying, when the Freys get murdered. He's, that obviously Bronn can have Riverrun because Edmure's off in Dawn, and this is my headcanon, and everyone needs to accept it now.
Yeah, I wish Edmure would just show up, just be like, I'm alive or something, just say something. But yeah, I mean, we're all book readers, and if I'm being honest, I think that the most people that watch the show and don't read the books probably at this point have no idea who Edmure Tully is. I think if you went to most people and said, who is Edmure Tully, they have no clue who you were talking about. So I don't think that the showrunners have any interest in giving him any kind of final thing at all.
Yeah, I think
it kind of sucks.
The way you'll know if he comes back is if previously on and they feature a scene with Edmure, then we might expect to see him or a mention. If not, you'll just have to pretend he never existed, I guess. I don't know. Or he's still rotting in a dungeon somewhere. I don't know. Mark also says, how? So here you go, Quinn. And I'm probably going to horribly butcher the pronunciation of this, even though I have read Dune and seen the miniseries. How would Team Westeros deal with Kwisatz Haderach? I'm probably pronouncing that terribly.
That was actually perfect.
Thank you. All right. So that's all you.
How would Westeros deal? Well, that's the thing. Bran is kind of supposed to be the Kwisatz Haderach. He's got knowledge of the past, knowledge of the future. I guess he'd sit in a wheelchair and not do anything. I mean, okay, so the Kwisatz Haderach, I don't know. I mean, it would seem like the Kwisatz Haderach would be there to like guide them down the correct path and help them where they needed to be helped and lead them to salvation. And I guess maybe Bran is doing that, but I don't know.
Yeah,
It's-
thoughts, Lady Jeffrey.
Okay, full disclosure, I've not read Dune and I've never really watched Dune, but I know that Sting wears those kind of like metal underpants with the wings on. If Kit Harington would like to wear those, that's fine. And that is literally the extent of my knowledge of Dune. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's like a God King type of situation, basically. And so, I mean, yeah, I guess Bran could kind of be that, but he's just, I mean, I don't know. He's such an odd character the past couple of seasons, and he and I. If you're all in on this like reluctant leader type of trope, then sure, he's great because he doesn't want to be Lord of Winterfell. He doesn't want anymore at all, and he lives in the past. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it'd be hard to corrupt someone like that, but also like, how do you actually involve him in the day-to-day minutia of actually ruling a kingdom? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it would be a good situation, but
Yeah.
maybe that's the route they're going. I
So
have no idea.
since we were talking about Dune, if Bran was a Kwisatz Haderach in Dune, he'd be like a failed Kwisatz Haderach. He'd be a Kwisatz Haderach that got lost in like the multitude of like the past memories. And so he'd just be like, I'm not Bran. So I don't know. I guess he's fail and just sit around all day.
I mean, yeah. Let me go and look at something that happened 100 years ago. Cool. Yeah, it's great. So Matthew says, what's the one thing you all want to see in this episode that you feel you probably won't see? Well, to me personally, everyone probably knows I'm a big Dany fan, and I feel terrible for her for everything that she's gone through the past few episodes. And the way she looks so sad in the kind of preview for this week, just so want someone to give her a hug and comfort her and just be nice to her. And I feel like we're not going to see that, and it's going to really break my heart.
Well, I know you guys mentioned the throne being destroyed, and that's something that I've been saying that for like a really long time. I would love it because I feel like the throne is just such a symbol of like oppression and then this awful feudal system where you have like these few on the top and then the common folk on the bottom who's like having their villages burned, and they're the ones that are really suffering and starving and dying. And yeah, the throne is just a symbol of that, and I would love to see it be destroyed in this episode. But I don't know if they're going to do that. I would hate it if it's just like someone sits on the throne in the end, but I don't know.
Agreed. And I think I'm still team No Iron Throne, and I think even if we don't see it this episode, we might see it in the finale.
Mhm.
But who knows? What do you think, Lady G?
yeah, I agree. I mean, I think if we're going to see a melted throne, I think it's going to be a final episode thing, because if we do that on this episode, what are we going to do for the final episode? I guess just have coffee and talk about our feelings.
Twiddle our thumbs, yeah. Starbucks. They'll establish a new Starbucks in Westeros.
Yeah. So I would love to see quote unquote Clegane Bowl this episode. Maybe we will get it. I don't know. I'm a huge Sandor fan, so I would love to. And God damn it, who doesn't hate the mountain? I would love to see that dude's eyes get gouged out. Like, that would be so freaking satisfying. Yeah, and Hot Pie, of course. We haven't seen Hot Pie yet this season, so if he would like to make a brief cameo, just so that he's still alive, and I can be vindicated in saying every time someone says like what's going to happen next episode, I'm like Hot Pie.
Yeah, they'll establish a ruling council of Westeros in the finale, and they'll bring him on as like the official chef of King's Landing. So yeah,
Master of loaves.
Right, exactly. There you go. So he'll sit the small council, make sure everyone gets fed. I really like this next comment. It's I am Giovanni. It says, "Isn't it odd that Cersei is the only mother of human beings, at least, of the remaining main characters, and yet all of her children are dead? What does Game of Thrones have against mothers?" I wonder that too, because we've seen so many mothers get killed, whether existing in universe in the present time or in the backstories of a lot of our main characters. And yes, we have Gilly, which is great. And I love her character, but she's not really one of like the main protagonists. And I even made this comment on Twitter that it's going to be very difficult for me to watch the kind of two main motherly figures because, I mean, Daenerys, she was pregnant one time. She's, considered the mother of dragons. She's kind of the mother to all of these people that she's helped to liberate. If we have to see these two main mother figures die horribly on Mother's Day, I am not going to be okay. So that's I mean, honestly, I have like a sick feeling in my stomach just thinking about it and what's gonna happen later. And I think that is just the ultimate cruelty of HBO to do this to us on Mother's Day. But obviously, I'm not gonna put it past them. So, you guys have thoughts on that?
Yeah, it does seem like Game of Thrones does have like just a song, even a song. It's just like there's a thing with mothers. Like it's always like, oh, my mother died in childbirth, or my mother is like gone, or there's like a thing. And then also Gilly's baby aged up like 4 years in one season.
I want to say that I feel a little bit like it's indicative of a show which is written by two guys based on a book that's written by a guy, because in this, I know it's that kind of a thing where when you have female characters, especially when you have slightly older female characters like Cersei or like Catelyn, it's a really easy way to kind of provoke an emotional response from that character and about that character is to have their children taken away from them, or for somebody to have this kind of backstory like, oh, my mother died in childbirth, or it's so much of a thing with Daenerys, but this kind of idea that like not being able to have children is like one of the worst things that can happen to a woman. So I feel like this whole kind of like, I don't necessarily think that they quote unquote hate mothers, because I don't imagine that they've sat down and gone like, oh, we'll hate on these guys because fuck them. But like I do just feel a little bit like it's this kind of almost this kind of get out clause where they're like going, okay, how can we destroy this character? Like, how can we break them? Will we kill their children? Because obviously it is a hugely important thing to a mother. But I think there are other routes that you can go down to do something like that with a character, and I just think it's indicative of it being written by a bunch of guys and going, I know what women like, children, let's kill them. I don't know why I did that accent. None of them are Cockneys.
Fantastic. And then Matthew actually did bring up that Tyrion killed Tywin in the season 4 finale on Father's Day. So there you go, guys. That's what you get to expect tonight on Mother's Day. So nice. Anyway, Holly made the comment they need to use the King's Landing sewers, and I kind of thought that too. Like, why not find a way to kind of smuggle some people in to start taking it down from the inside? Like I said, Daenerys, she had some really great tactics to take over the cities in Essos, and so you would think that she didn't necessarily even use her dragons doing it. So I feel like they could come up with some alternative methods if they really wanted to, but I don't anticipate seeing that tonight. And then Arya knows the way around King's Landing. Yeah.
I even tweeted this last episode that as soon as Tyrion saw King's Landing, he was like, drains, everybody. Remember the sewage system. I'd quite like for them to bring it up, even if it's just a nod to the fact that was Tyrion.
Yeah. I don't. It kind of goes back to the terrible strategies that we'll see from Team Targaryen. I don't know. I feel like we're not going to get anything too terribly strategic or thoughtful. It's just going to be like a standard, dragon attacking the city. There's some really nice comments in here about faceless men. Littlefinger's hot pie Azaria, who's actually checking Agar. Jack, and who's a Dario, who's Syrio, who's Euron Greyjoy. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I don't know if we'll see any more Faceless Men shenanigans, but I wouldn't put it past them. Curious to know what other faces that Arya might have in her little bag. So yeah, we'll see how she manages to get into the city. I'm assuming she's going to have some kind of disguise to, if she is actually going after Cersei to get close to her. I would think that she would use one of her tricks.
What if
So,
Cersei kills Arya and then that's like the final big twist and they're like dun dun dun, like the mountain just like comes and just rips off Arya's head and they're just like,
don't
people
do that
would
to me.
freak out. It'd be nuts.
Oh yeah, for sure. Someone asks, is Arya the waif? God, I hope not. I know that was a theory that the waif actually killed Arya and then put on her face, and that's who we've been seeing this whole time. Like, oh, I hate that theory.
That's silly because like she puts the waif's face on the wall, so like why would she cut off her own face and put it on the wall?
Yeah. John has no idea Varys and Sansa are conspiring against him. I don't know if that's necessarily true. Did Sansa send Arya south to kill Cersei, Dany, or both? I don't think Sansa sent Arya at all. I think Arya's going of her own volition, and I think she's wanting to take Cersei out. Just my own personal opinion. Serena says, I want to see Cersei's reaction about Jon's parentage. If she knew, she would be pissed. Do you guys think that she'll find out somehow before the episode's over?
I don't know how much it would matter to Cersei because at the end of the day, an opponent is an opponent to Cersei, and I don't know how. Like, I think she would be like, "Oh, that's an intriguing little information nugget," but I feel like at the end of the day, right now she's being attacked by Daenerys. Jon is with Daenerys. It's not. I think she's not going to make an alliance with either of them. I think that to her would just be like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to kill him anyway because he's trying to depose me." So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that would be kind of like earth-shattering news to her.
I think the thing that would be interesting to me, and they've kind of touched on it in the show, but the fact, I think it would be more fascinating to read in the books from her point of view, because she was in love with Rhaegar and had expected to marry him at one point, and the fact that Robert was in love with Lyanna, and Cersei was always kind of jealous of that relationship, and that attachment that he had to her. To know that Jon was the son of the man that she had a crush on, basically, and had hoped to marry, and the woman that her husband had been hung up on for their entire marriage, I think would elicit some kind of emotional response from her, I think. But yeah, I don't know if that would even be an issue in the show, but in the books, I think it would be really fascinating to kind of see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I didn't even think about that, but I agree. Yeah, they probably wouldn't. It probably won't happen in the show because I don't know if they've like set it up. If anyone would like really get what was going on, unless they just like kind of brought it up last minute and then she gave us some exposition, like I was in love with Rhaegar or something like that. But yeah.
You have any thoughts on that, Lady G?
I totally kind of not forgot, but I didn't factor in what you were saying, which I totally agree with Vanessa about her having a reaction based on the fact that she and her partner were basically in love with each of Jon's parents. But I don't know that obviously I know that they brought up Robert and Lyanna in the show. I don't know that they've ever brought up Cersei and Rhaegal, or if they have, it's not something that, again, we were saying about casual viewers not remembering Edmure. They're definitely not going to remember. If I can't remember, they're not going to remember whether or not Cersei ever mentioned wanting to bone Rhaegal in the past. So I totally agree that in the books that would certainly be a bit of a, and because of the way the books are written as well, and you get all this kind of like wonderful introspection and perspective of what each character is thinking, which you just obviously by the very nature of the show you don't get. So I think unless it was, as you say, awkwardly crowbarred in last minute, like Jon's like, I'm actually a Targaryen, and then Cersei's just like, oh yes, I actually quite fancied your dad, but that never worked out.
Actually, I would love to see that. I really would like to see that. That would be amazing. Oh, anyway. But yeah, I agree. I don't think that they'll kind of go that route in the show, which is kind of sad because I think that would be a really fun conversation between Jon and Cersei. And Raven Sapphire says, is the show expected to end this series in the exact way of GRRM's ending? So from what I understand, he told them kind of the gist of where he was headed and the endpoints for the main characters that he knew as of, I think this was, I don't know, when was it? Like 3 years ago? No, it was after season 3. It was after season 3 they had to sit down with him and kind of got the bullet points of where he was planning to go and what the main characters were going to be doing in the end game. And they did say that they were going to be faithful to that. But then they also said before the season that they were not going to tell anyone what was planned by George and what they came up with on their own. So I think there will be similarities. Whether or not it's an exact copy of what he's planning for the end, I don't know. Because, I mean, he could basically say, okay, Jon lives, Daenerys dies, but the way that they live and die could be completely different in the show and books. So I don't know. I'm hesitant to say that what we see at the end of episode 6 is going to be where the books end up.
I think the other thing as well is what George told them, whether that was like 3 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever. George has not finished writing those books, okay? You know, and I love the dude, but he is not an author that plans ahead. And I half wonder if the things that he told D&D were what he had in mind for finishing the books at that point. And now he's writing it and he's just like, you know what would be a really good idea? I'm just going to do something completely different. And I would hate to say that he was influenced by the TV show because I don't think that he is, but I wonder, just there is so much going on in those books which hasn't made it onto the TV show. There is so much in those books that has been done differently on the TV show. So even if this the final beat of the show, whatever it is, whether it's, you know, the Iron Throne being melted, whether that's Dany on the throne, whether that's, you know, Jon and Dany having a baby together or whatever, I think regardless of whether or not that is a final beat in the book, everything else is going to be so different that it's the destination might be more or less the same, but the journey is so different, I think, as to almost make that destination negligible.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't see how they could end in the same place. I know George R. R. Martin had that 60-minute interview and he was saying that he thinks it's going to be accurate. But, you know, George R. R. Martin is not sitting with the writers and like having conversations with them every day about the scripts and making them keep up with the lore. I mean, they called Gendry like Gendry Rivers. Like he was born in King's Landing.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like there's absolutely no way. And like you said, I love George R. R. Martin too, but I think that was him being a little bit kind of naive, thinking that it was going to end the same, because there's absolutely no way. There's way too much that's different. That's just what I think. I could be wrong.
I
though.
agree. I think if he was, it's not a process. This isn't a collaborative process to me. It's always been a case that they started adapting the show. They didn't know how many seasons they were going to get. It took off. It became this huge thing. It then became an issue that they were going to surpass the books. So, you know, they're entering into these discussions of George, like what's going to happen to, you know, whoever, but they're not doing it as a collaborative process. I'm really glad they're not doing it as a collaborative process, because it makes it a lot easier for me to separate the show and the book. And when things that I don't like happen in the show, I can go, oh, well, it's okay, because that's D&D's creation. It's not George's creation. It's different. But I completely agree that I think him saying, oh, well, I told them the ending, so they'll just do it and it'll be the same. I think it's not. And he knows, you know, he's written for TV. He knows that's not how it's going to work. And I also wonder how much of the show has been influenced by the popular reaction to the show, in terms of them kind of like killing characters or keeping characters alive, or we know that they've taken plot lines from the book that involved more minor characters and used major characters, like giving Sansa Jane Poole's storyline, because they obviously felt like, oh, viewers will will find it easier to kind of accept that it's Sansa rather than just like reintroducing this random northern chick, you know. So I wonder if there are certain things that they've done to make it kind of more palatable or more easy for the casual viewer, which is just when you read the books, it's just going to be like completely different.
Agreed. And I don't think George R. R. Martin is going to go back and change things as he's already kind of laid the groundwork for, because he's already said, you know, he knows that some people have guessed the ending. But this is before he quit looking at theories online. He did say that someone had guessed how he had planned to wrap things up, and that he wasn't going to change it based on that because he'd already laid the groundwork and the foreshadowing, and then it would make absolutely no sense to go back and change it and have a completely different ending. But I will say, I think you can tweak specific characters' endings that may not necessarily be what he had initially planned. I mean, he created that outline back in, what was it, 1993, that and if you haven't seen it, you can find it online, but he
Totally
sent an
different.
outline, and there are so many things that are already very different from where the story has gone since, that I could see him changing some of the main characters' end states if he felt that it served the story and maybe didn't affect that kind of main gist of where the thing is going. So I agree. Like I, you know, we don't know how many years away we are from actually getting the finish of the books, and so although the show may be wrapping up where he had told them it would as of the end of season 3, that might not be quite exactly what's going to happen in the books. So I think we'll just kind of have to wait and see. And honestly, I I feel like maybe the show would have been better off to kind of go off and do their own thing completely. Um, Even if they got some endpoints from George, because they've already changed so many things, like trying to shoehorn in some of the beats that he had planned in the books, I don't know if it's going to work as well in a visual medium. And so yeah, I'm interested to see where it
Yeah.
goes, but I might also, you know, once this all wraps up, I might go back and say, you know, maybe they should have considered doing XYZ instead. So I don't know. It's really tough when you don't have the finished product to adapt.
I
And
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was just
go
gonna
ahead.
say that I kind of agree, because one of the things that's an example of that is kind of like the hold the door thing with Hodor. Like, even though when we were all seeing that, that was like such a like gut wrenching moment for all of us. But then going back and looking at it, it kind of doesn't make any sense that there's a door here, and it doesn't make sense just what happened, because I've seen that a dozen times. I still have no idea what happened. Like Bran wargs Hodor, and it in the past it does what is going on here. And I don't know if that's gonna be so. I feel like that's something from the books that George R. R. Martin would have led up to, he's already starting to lay the groundwork for that in the book, of this kind of like weird timey-wimey stuff. But in the book it would have made more sense. And in the show, since they just kind of decided to put it in here, not explain it and go, it kind of just it damages the show as a whole, I think.
Yeah, I think that kind of magical stuff, especially with the skin changing ability, is just so much harder to do on the show,
Mhm.
because you can't really, you know, get inside people's heads like you can in the books. I think it's more difficult to portray that. And I mean, to be fair, I actually really enjoyed that episode.
Yeah.
I had a very strong emotional reaction to that. But you know, there were probably a lot of people it didn't necessarily make sense for, and I mean, I don't know. It's just the difficulties of adapting that kind of material, I guess. Just gonna We need to kind of quickly wrap up this conversation. I'm gonna go through some a few more comments, and then we'll talk about what we expect to see tonight. Um, Kenny says Sweet Robin's actor intimated he was briefly in the season, might just be a single epilogue shot. I kind of agree. I think if we do see him at all, it will be in like an epilogue, or as like near setting up whatever kind of governing of Westeros moving forward. We might see him then, but otherwise, I don't think he's going to be a big factor in the next couple episodes. Um, Danny to not become the Mad Queen is what I would like to see. Yeah, that's what I would like to see too, but I don't know if that's where this is going. It's Barbie Lopez, she also says, "What about building strong women who rise at the top only to make them mad?" Ugh, yeah, I feel you. I think that's my biggest issue with the way that this is going. Is do we really need a Mad Queen Cersei and a Mad Queen Daenerys, and all of the sensible men around them have to rein them in and try to stop the carnage that's coming? Just I mean, I guess I can see where that's going, but it doesn't sit all that well with me. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
We can't have all the women in the show go mad. Right.
There's still Sansa and Arya, I guess, and Gilly.
Oh, there's still time. I'm sure the writers will. No, I don't want to see. Like I said earlier, I'm not a huge fan of the Mad Dany. I think she's full of justifiable rage. I think that's fine. I think there's a line, and I hope that they walk it and don't just go, let's just make her mad.
I agree.
I've never agreed with the whole Mad Dany thing when people would criticize her for stuff like crucifying the wise masters. I'm like, I mean, you got to make a statement when you're coming in here, like subverting their entire culture. And then they just did this mass genocide of children. So, I mean, come on now.
Yeah, I agree. Clegane Bowl. Yeah, I think we'll see Clegane Bowl this week. I don't know if we'll be happy with how it ends, but I think we'll see it. George has a bit of an obsession with mothers dying in childbirth. Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately. Is the Golden Company going to turn on Cersei when they find out Dany is going for the throne and she's a Targaryen? And then someone else says, will they support Jon Snow? I could see maybe them turning on Cersei. They already know that Daenerys is a Targaryen, I assume, though. So I don't know that would be because of someone's bloodline, but maybe because they're like, oh crap, we can't fight a dragon, or someone, comes in with a better offer, maybe. Or maybe they plan to do it all along. Who knows? But I could see that as a possibility.
I mean, but the thing is, they clearly can fight a dragon. I mean, they made short work of Rhaegal in the last episode, and then Cersei got a crap ton of those things. So I mean, I'm sure Dany's gonna be doing a lot of dodging in this episode.
Yeah, if she takes out the scorpions, though, they're kind of dead on their feet. So yeah,
the armor.
Yeah, for sure. Clint says maybe Dany is having twins, dies during birth, leaving Jon raising the babies because the dragon has 3 heads. I would not be happy with that ending. I have always hated the idea that she'll die in childbirth just because it's already happened so many times. Like, do we really need to kill off another mom in childbirth? I don't like that at all. And then Clint says, we hope we see Yara again and taking on Euron. I don't know. I would love to see her come, like I said, and fight his fleet. But I know she, the actress, had a child, I think, in between last season and this one. And so I think it was probably difficult for her to film. And I think that has a big effect on how often we've seen her so far. So I don't know if she'll be in this episode or not, although I would love to see that. So I don't know. And I think that's kind of wraps up all of the questions that have come in. So before we log off for the evening, just wanted to get your thoughts on what you guys think we'll be seeing tonight. Any predictions you might have?
Pretty sure Cersei's gonna die. The mountain's gotta go out. Grey Worm might die. I don't know, but I said a lot of people were gonna die in episode 3, so I'm probably full of it. And then kill anybody. So yeah, but I would imagine that we'd see that's it. Those are my predictions. Wildfire.
Yeah, I always think less characters die than we predict. Certainly in kind of the later series anyway. I can definitely see people like the Mountain and Qyburn and Harry Strickland and people like that dying. I'm two ways with Cersei, honestly, because I don't think that Cersei is getting out of the show alive, but at the same time, I can't see how they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know if they're going to remember that they did the prophecy storyline way back when and have Jaime or Tyrion kill her. I don't know. Yeah, is maybe Dany's just going to kill her? I don't know. Yeah, it's a toughie. I think we're definitely going to see some of the minor major characters get offed. I don't want Grey Worm to die. Like, but I feel like he's going to go down in a blaze of glory. Now he's got nothing left to. He's got nothing left to live for, is he really now?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think he might survive if only to have that kind of representative of the Unsullied, because no one else is really named. They've already killed off so many characters of color at this point. I feel like they might keep him around to have kind of that character for us to connect with. And I think it would be kind of tragic for him to have to live on after losing Missandei. I figured at least one of them would have to die, and I didn't know if they would kill them both. But since they've already, gotten off her character, so I don't know. He might live. I definitely think we'll see Clegane Bowl. I think we'll see Drogon, burn some stuff, a lot of stuff. I think it's very possible we'll see some wildfire set off. I do think Cersei will die. I think both the Mountain and the Hound will die, which will be very sad. As far as like the Varys, I think is toast. Like I said, literally toast. And I don't know. As far as Daenerys, Jon, Tyrion, it's tough. Jaime, I don't have a lot of hopes for him. If he does go to King's Landing and Cersei dies, I don't see it ending well for him either. So my prediction is be prepared for a lot of heartache tonight, and be prepared to be very anxious the entire episode, because I think we're gonna lose a lot of people that are gonna really hurt. So I'll leave it at that. But thanks everyone for joining us. We've just got, about an hour and 20 minutes before we find out what happens. It's going to be quite an emotional roller coaster, I am sure. We will be releasing a recap episode this week. It may be a little bit delayed. We've had some scheduling issues. Unfortunately, we weren't able to release one last week, but we will do our best to get one out this week. Look for it possibly Tuesday or Wednesday. Follow us on Twitter at KnightsCast, and I'm Vanessa again. You can follow me on Twitter at VKColeArtist. I will be tweeting about the show. You can also find my artwork there. I do a lot of Game of Thrones artwork that you can find on Twitter and on Instagram at VKColeArt. And Quinn, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really enjoyed having you on. And just let everyone know where they can find you again.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. You can find me Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Ideas of Ice and Fire, and I break down fantasy books and science fiction books. Thank you for having me on.
Awesome. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And Lady Jeffrey, where can people find you?
So I am on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram at Lady_Jeffrey. I live tweet the episode every week at the US time. So if you've not caught me live tweeting before, we've got 2 episodes left. Come find me. I'm hilarious.
Yes, highly recommend. Definitely follow them both on Twitter. And like I said, we will be doing a recap this week. Definitely follow us at Watchers on the Wall. Check out our articles, recaps, interview roundups. We'll be posting that all week long. And definitely join us for our final live stream next Sunday for the big finale. I cannot believe we're already there. It's overwhelming and exciting and sad all at the same time. So it's going to be emotional, I'm sure. But thank you guys for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next time.